All right, the Democratic governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, has joined the list of blue state officials with a harsh assessment of President Biden's open border immigration policy, calling the chaotic situation untenable. Now, Pritzker, like New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and New York City Mayor Eric Adams, is feeling the pressure from sanctuary city policies he had previously supported. Now, here's the question. Could the political reality that has hit these state and local leaders be making its way to Joe Biden? I don't think it has yet. But there's something that's turning these state and local leaders around on this issue. Joining me now to discuss this and more, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas. He serves on the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Rules Committee, and the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. Senator Cruz, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Thank you, Tony. Always great to be with you.
So we have the worst immigration situation in our nation, illegal immigration. Now even advocates for sanctuary cities are changing their tune. Is it fair to say that tactics like those used by Texas Governor Greg Abbott to get other states to share the burden of this uncontrolled border chaos did more to persuade on this issue in 1 year than anything else in the last 40 years?
Oh, look, absolutely. It has brought home the consequences of this unprecedented action. Look, however bad you think our border crisis is, unless you've seen it firsthand, I promise you it is worse than you think it is. When you go down to the border, it is a constant wave. It is a constant invasion. We're now north of 7.6 million people who have come illegally into this country since Joe Biden became president. And you know, you talked about Democratic mayors and Democratic governors. Take a look at someone like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, who faced with 110,000 illegal immigrants. He has said that illegal immigration is a crisis and that it is destroying New York City. Well, if 110,000 is destroying New York City, what does he think 7.6 million are doing to the state of Texas and the other states on our southern border? This is indefensible. And I got to tell you, the people who are suffering, the thousands upon thousands of people who are dying, the crimes that are being committed, the children that are being brutalized, the women who are being sexually assaulted, the Americans who are dying of drug overdoses, it is a travesty at a level never seen on our border until Joe Biden and these radical Democrats came into office.
So, Senator, as you mentioned, we talked about the Democratic leaders are saying, hey, this policy doesn't work. We got to fix it. Yep. Falling on deaf ears. The polling now shows that the American people, when you look at the economy, you look at crime and border, those are the top issues people are concerned about, and they give the Democrats failing marks on that. So what's behind this? I mean, is the president and his administration absolutely blind, or is there a bigger agenda here?
So it's not even that they're blind, it's that they're willfully blind. They do not care. They want this outcome. The thing to understand is Joe Biden is not trying to stop illegal immigration. Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, is not trying to stop illegal immigration. He wants more of it. He's trying to accelerate it. He's trying to facilitate it. He views his job as an effort to get even more efficient, taking people, you're showing footage right now of people walking across the border in droves. He wants to get even faster and faster and faster, sending those people to every city in America. He wants to be the most efficient, processing. Today, right now, the Biden administration is the last mile of the human trafficking network that is brutalizing millions of people. And really, there are two reasons for it. Number one, this Democrat Party has handed their agenda over to the radical fringe on just about every issue. And so on immigration, it's the open borders crazies who believe we shouldn't have a border, that we have no right to have a border, that anyone on the face of the earth who wants to come to America should be allowed to come. But number two, I think for Joe Biden and other partisan Democrats, they look at every one of these illegal immigrants and they view them as future Democrat voters. And this is about power. It's about political power. They want to change the demographic constitution of the nation to elect more Democrats. And if thousands upon thousands of children have to suffer as a consequence, they're more than happy to pay the price. And, you know, it's striking. These Democrat mayors, these Democrat governors, they're now calling out the disaster. But you know who they're not willing to call out? Joe Biden. To a person, none of them say the next step, which is the reason this disaster is happening, is because my party caused it. Eric Adams, the New York mayor, said the problem in New York, and he said it's, quote, this madman in Texas, by which he meant our governor, Greg Abbott. I got to tell you, Tony, I was offended that he didn't mean me. I don't know what I got to do to qualify as a madman in Texas for Eric Adams, but he meant Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott sent about 10,000 illegal immigrants to New York City, about 100,000. They're about 110,000 altogether. So Abbott has just sent a small portion. Fewer than 10% of the illegal immigrants in New York City were sent by Abbott. And yet, Eric Adams will not blame Joe Biden, and he won't blame Chuck Schumer, who lives in Manhattan. I've offered to give Eric Adams Schumer's cell phone. If he wants to put blame at the feet of the people who could change it, he needs to be willing to call out his own party. And none of these blue state Democrats have indicated any willingness to do that.
But the American people see who is behind this, because while the White House blames the Republicans, the American people see it's the Democrats. Related to this, in a way, is this lawlessness. And we're seeing a rise in crime across the nation and in our nation's capital. I mean, it's getting dangerous to walk the streets in Washington, D.C.
Well, look, that is exactly right. We had just this week Henry Cuellar, who's a congressman from the great state of Texas. He was carjacked 9:30 p.m. outside his apartment. Apparently, it's an apartment building that multiple members of Congress live in that building. And he had 3 or 4 men with guns pull a gun on him, take his car, take his luggage, and carjack him. And I got to say, it's really striking because the elected Democrats in the D.C. City Council recently voted to lower the penalties for carjacking and lower the penalties for murder and for burglary and for violent crime. And it was so extreme that Congress, we voted to overturn the D.C. City Council lessening the punishment for violent crime. In the House, there were only 2 Democrats who voted with Republicans against lowering the penalties for carjacking. One of those 2 was Henry Cuellar. The other was Vicente Gonzalez, who's another Texan. Every other Democrat voted in favor of lessening the penalties. As you know, Tony, I do every week a podcast. It's called Verdict with Ted Cruz. I do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Actually, today's podcast discusses 2 things. Discusses the Speaker of the House chaos that's unfolding in the House yesterday and what it means, what's likely to come up next. But secondly, it discusses exactly this issue you just raised, which is the crime wave in D.C. and across the country that is being caused by these radical soft-on-crime policies from Democrats.
Senator, we've got to leave it there. We're out of time. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Always a pleasure.